This is a 1964 Merc 1000 Mercury outboard. It is a inline 6, and it is basically a parts motor at this point. Being it's a 64, it's kind of the last of this style of Tiger block. In 65 they changed slightly. They became fatter cowlings, not quite as tall, but they still had the hoop-de-doo on the top there, or lift handle as it's been referred to. But from 62 to 64 they're roughly all the same. There's a difference though. This is a 90 cubic inch block, which started actually in 1962 with the Holy Grail first black, Phantom Black Mercury outboard 100 horse. Then that 90 cubic inch motor became the block that they used for the 850 in 63. But in 1962 the 850 was a 76 cubic inch block, which I'll explain a lot of that later because that's going to come into play here. But this is a donor motor for some components to build a FRANKENMERC. So we're going to be, first of all, we're going to check it out and make sure it's still good, because it was. And so we're going to check it out and we're going to make it run. So just so we can hear it, or so my customer can hear it, because he owns it, or parts of it. We'll be back. Okay, I got the wraparound off, and just a quick inspection of things. The wiring harness looks to be in really good shape, which is the fate of a majority of these, as the wires become very rotten, especially up here where the ballast resistors are. That these wires, just the casings fall off, and especially anything going up towards the stator, so on there. So the wiring harness is excellent, so we'll be using that. I love the vintage cobwebs, and being that it's Halloween and the kind of thing, but if you look at the garbage inside those carbs, let's see if I can try to, oh, I can't see through my camera. Oh, there we go. It's over there. But if you can see, they're really freaking filthy dirty up in there. Yeah, that's nasty. So before, and there's cobwebs in that carburetor. Holy crap. So before you even think about doing a compression test or anything like that, if you get an old motor like this, what you got to do is tip it up like so. It can be on its side a little bit, but tip it up like this, and get some carb cleaner and spray that out. As long as the throttle plates are closed, let's see where, okay, as long as the throttle plates are closed, you can see that it just runs this stuff out of here. And so the idea is to get rid of any lumpy gravy. Let's see if we can see that carburetor. Can we see it? We can see it. Kinda. Okay. But you don't want to drag any kind of dirt or anything inside the motor, although these things are ridiculously forgiving. And, you know, I'm gonna soak that down and come back and soak it some more. So I'm gonna just get that stuff wet and get it happy for right now. Another interesting thing I'm gonna point out about this motor, if I can get my camera to focus on my finger. Where's my finger? God, when it's sunlight. See this little whirligig here that's going through the end of this bolt? This is from the factory. If you see this, that means this engine has never been split apart or overhauled in any way. It means it's still fresh, factory fresh. And by the way, that's somewhere. God, Can't see. Oh, there we go. Tiger. So there's the definition of the block. They made a Tiger block, and in '68 they came out with the Typhoon block, and the 4-cylinder was called something completely different. Name escapes me. At the Panther. Oh yeah, Panther block was the 4-cylinder, which I really do like those, and have several of those. Actually, I have several Mercuries, as you can see over there. Somebody called me the 6-cylinder Mercury god. I don't even know why. Maybe because I've had over 100 of them at one point in time. So anyway, the initial inspection on this thing was really good, except I started looking at these plug wires, and they're supposed to be angled boot plug wires, so that was a red flag right off the bat. Not that they don't work, but if you know anything about Mercury outboards, that these plug wires screw in to the cap. That's how they work, okay, so they don't vibrate and come loose. Well, I gave this a slight tug, and oh my, and it came off. So somebody replaced the plug wires, not with Mercury ones, with probably, I don't know, 6-cylinder Chevrolet. That's my guess. And so that's not going to fly with me. That'll be changed. But this is just a parts motor. I want the block. That's all I really want. Cowling's in nice shape too, but and this isn't half bad. Most of these Mercuries are all beat up back here. They're just wasted. And if you're going to restore one of these, which is exactly what I will be doing, you want nice stuff, nice trim, and this does have some nice trim on it. So anyway, that's enough for now. I just want to show the tech tip on cleaning the carburetor. And oh, another thing I'm going to be doing as well, you can see there's so much dirt inside this electrical connection, and I've had a lot of these motors come in the shop here over the years, and they get corroded. These pins get corroded, and they can't understand why their motor, it started, but then they got in the middle of the lake and it quit, and it wouldn't do anything. They got corrosion issues, and when I clean all this stuff up, it took me 15 minutes and they were good to go, and they're just like going, wow, that's so cool. It's like, maintenance? Hello? That's why I'm here. It's why you pay me. Because I know things. So that's something that's going to happen too here off camera, because this gets way too long and too windy, and my videos, I don't want to be boorish, but I want to be educational. So what you learned here was to clean the carburetors. What you learned was the fact that the block is a virgin. It's never been split or rebuilt. The spark plug wires are epic fail. They have to be screwed in, because you could basically be driving across the lake and one of those could vibrate and fall out. These create vibration, and they scream. They were referred to also as the old screamers, because they're loud. Even with the baffles inside the wraparound, they're still loud. If you take them baffles out, oh boy, you got a race motor. Anyway, enough of this silliness. I have to move on here and check things and clean things. So, I want to get a wiring harness hooked up to this. I do have one at the shop here that's kind of not the best, but it is labeled a tool, and it is for working on these old motors. So we're going to hook up a wiring harness. We're going to put a fuel tank to this thing. We're going to put a battery to it. I'm probably going to do a static compression test on it, just to kind of get a baseline, and that's all I'm doing. When you do a dry compression test from a motor that's sat around a long time, don't expect it to be perfect, because those rings get stuck in the pistons and the compression can be, well, let's just put it this way, results may vary. So, alright, I got a lot of things to get going on here, because this is the first of two today. So, back to the 100 horse Merc parts motor. As you can see, I actually took a carb brush and went in and used carb cleaner and cleaned out the barrel of the carburetors because there was so much stuff in there, and that bottom one was just loaded with sand and oil and gook, and so we got all that out of there all the way back to the throttle plates. So it's I can see inside that. So they all look like this now. So I've minimized the amount of garbage. And also, I'm going to tell you too, while you're cleaning, make sure this mechanism is working right, and clean the backside of these too, because when you shut this choke, whatever's on the backside of this is going to get sucked right into the carburetor, and that's bad. That's bottom carb. I can still feel some kind of sort of dirtiness, so I may choose to clean that again before I ever even think about firing this motor up. It's kind of just dusty, dirty stuff, sandy, gritty. Sandy and gritty is not good for an engine. I did take the spark plugs out and inspected all them, and they look new in the exterior, and they all look like they're burning literally equally and perfectly. So if I do a compression test on this, is only just to get a baseline of where it's at this moment in time, because it's going to change the minute I fire it up. And I haven't checked it for spark or hooked the wiring harness up yet, but that's going to go next. And I just wanted to show the carb stuff, and I have to get through this and get this thing torn down and get one more on the back of the workboat and do the same thing to it yet today. We have beautiful weather for half the day, and then things are gonna go wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald and turn the gales of November. Well, it's not November yet though. So anyway, so the weather's gonna go to hell is what I'm saying. Going from 75 degrees to 38 degrees in a few hours, which I hate when that happens. Oh, I did not get to that yet. I will get to that before I come back. Well, we're back. So the next part of this is to, obviously we cleaned our connections here, and I've got the power hooked up to this, and it turns over with the key switch, so everything's good to go there. Put gas to it, which that was a struggle because they didn't want to go on, but I have some leaking carburetor issues here, float issues. But here's the thing with an old Merc, and this don't work with OMC, but it just does with Mercury, and I don't know why. But let the damn thing soak with gas in them for a while, and then everybody just kind of gets happy. Needle and seat start to do needle and seat things, and everything gets good to go. Now, I do not know why I don't have a choke. That's not working. So this is the wire that goes to the choke, and I would have to get a test light and see if we got power coming from my switch, which these switches do tend to go to hell quite frequently, but you can jump across them because it's just a power side. That's all it does. The choke is grounded. There's a wire up underneath the cowling here that grounds the choke. So as long as it's got ground and power to this leg here, you're good to go. I can't remember if I turned this on. Pardon me. No, there. Now it's off. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do what I call a dry compression test for a motor that has sat for a really long time. Now, I'm going to hook one of these leads up to the power side. Hope we get a good connection. Let's see, where's my hand? Oh, there it is. One's going to go to the power side, and the other lead of my remote start switch is going to go to the white, or in later ones it's the yellow wire on the solenoid. You'll see the solenoid has wire coming to it, and the other side is grounded. So we'll put that guy on there. Then you want to spin the motor approximately 4 revolutions. Now everybody says, you know, throttle wide open to get a pure compression test. That's not what we're doing. We're just making sure that all the cylinders have some kind of compression, and they're dry. They have not been lubricated. There's nothing going on there. And I will tell you, the first time I turned this motor over, it rolled pretty slow. And so the starter wasn't very happy. The motor wasn't very happy. And so that's when I decided to start soaking the fuel so that, you know, it'll start leaking into the motor and making bearings and things happy. I'm leaving everything go. Now there's another hack I'm going to show you here, because we don't have a gear case. And I am going to run this motor. I know. You're probably going like, well, how do you pump water? Well, you're about to find out. Anyway, so I got all the plugs out, and I'm still not happy with the 6-cylinder Chevy spark plug wire deals, but believe it or not, they work. I did want to show you this little tech tip too. This is a dual point distributor in these old girls, and so one set of points runs 1 through 3. So you can take, and if you want to do a spark test, you just grab 1, 2, or 3 and put a plug in it. Then you grab 4, 5, or 6 and put a plug in it, and we have really strong sparks. So that's a wonderful thing. Now I'm going to tell you right now that these old motors, the point gap and dwell is extremely important that it be spot on. Otherwise it just won't run for shit. They're a dual point type distributor, and the points are located inside of here. Okay, actually right about in there. So extremely important that they're working properly and that the dwell is spot on. So, and one coil comes off of here, okay, and so, and the other coil comes off the center of the cap. All right, then you got all the plug wires, which is the secondary. So this is primary, this is the secondary circuit of the ignition. So I already tested number 1 cylinder. It was like 118-ish. And I spun this, just goofing around here trying to set stuff up for this. I spun this over just a couple of times, and we're already at like 115. So my guess is after this runs and the rings loosen up and everything, we're going to be at about 125. And that's really good for these old girls. They bought 135 brand new. I rebuilt them, re-ringed them and stuff like that, and that's pretty much where you get. But that is so much work, and what I need is a good power head with good compression. I can fix all the rest of the stuff. I just need good bearings, good power head, and I'm golden on this job. So, and this, yeah, we're not going to get anything more out of that. That's what we got there, is about, yeah, I don't know, maybe 116 right now. So I didn't expect a lot. So, with it being dry. Oh, this is so hard to do one-handed. Now I get what Jamie says is Dead Dodge Garage when he tries to do it one-handed and then look through your stupid phone. And yeah. Now the bottom one, I will give OMC guys their due. I mean, OMCs are pretty easy to get at, but the bottom one is always a problem, and you got to use a wrench, and they're a bunch of crybabies because they can't use tools and make their hands go in little holes. But I will say one thing, these are simple to work on. I've worked on OMC, I've worked on Mercury. Mercury, you don't have to take everything apart to do one thing. I mean, change a starter on an OMC is, oh my God, act of God, you know. And with Mercury, I mean, it's pretty simple. Everything on bolts right here, it just comes right off. And so I don't really care which one that you use. They all have their purpose. OMCs are great fishing motors. The V4s are good, strong motors in that way. But when it comes to performance, Mercury outruns them. And that's that. That's a history proven thing. But like I said, it's all what you like. I mean, this is a non-denominational church. We got those, and there's a bunch of Johnsons over there, and there's a bunch of Scotts and McCulloughs and Mercury's over there until hell wouldn't have it, and a lot in my collection in the building, which someday I'm going to take you guys in there because there's some really neat stuff in there. Well, our family had a boat museum at one point in time, so just imagine the archived cool stuff. All right, so getting back to this thing. So we're going to do another compression test on this cylinder, and then I'm going to finish up. All right, I'm going to finish up with that. And this one came in at about 110, which is a little bit lower, but like I said, not scared of it. Anything over 100 to start with, you're pretty good to go to start with, because once you run this motor, these rings get all stuck, and once you run this motor for a while, it'll actually sound like crap the first time it fires up. Yeah, it's gonna sputter and carry on, and you're actually going to see that because we're going to fire it up. Now you can see the puddle starting here. It is leaking gas out of the carburetors into the motor, through the exhaust, and so on there. So now we know we're getting gas in the cylinders anyway. But the carbs are going to need some attention. That's fine. I don't care about that. So anyway, I'm going to pause this for a second here. Well, actually, I'm just going to finish up the compression test. I'll let you guys know when I come back on here. But I need two hands to do this properly and quickly, because I have another one to do immediately after this one. And if this one checks out, I mean, I have several power heads of this vintage anyway, but if this one checks out good, then we're going to dissect this thing. We're going to strip it down. We're going to pull the power head off. We're going to definitely, I'm taking that top because all stainless and the top is just really super nice. And that's going to be white. So I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. So the compression test came out a little wonky. It went to 120 on number 4. See, number 4, number 5, and number 6 were 118, 120. And so I went back and tested this one again, and this one came up to 115 already. But as you can, I don't know if you can see this in the camera angle, but there's a puddle of gas on the ground, so that means that one of the carburetors is losing its mind, and the needle and seat is compromised. All right, so that's going to be problematic. But I just won't have to choke it. So we're going to try and see if it'll pop fire here before we take it and put water to it, because there's a trick I'm going to show you on that. So seriously, pop fire. Hey, happen to see the flames come out of the bottom of that? That's pretty cool. Huh, I gotta see if that camera's angle is good for that. Oh yeah, it's kind of catching it. We got to do that. Yeah, so she's shooting flames out the exhaust, so that means it's going to run, but it's horribly flooded at this point, and there's no control on the throttle, which is another problematic thing. And I gotta go, I can't do two things at once. So I'm gonna go on the other side here to run all that and let you guys watch fireballs come out the tuner pipe. Alright, let's see that one. Ooh, there we go. Hey, that was cool. Fire. That's all I wanted to do there was pop fire it, run it for a few seconds. I don't want the block isn't warming up at all, so that's good to go. Now this needs to run longer so it can clean itself out, and I want it to. because I want the rings to kind of loosen up and get happy before I do something else with this motor. I'm happy with the way this thing runs already, because I know how it's going to run when I get done with it. So I'm going to pause this, and we're going to go. Actually, I'm going to actually show that hack right now on when you don't have a gear case. So when you don't have a gear case, in the back of the power head, there's the thing. This water line goes actually up inside, and this goes into the bottom of the power head, and this goes actually into the pump. And you can see I have installed a garden hose, part of a garden hose onto this. This is another one of my tools I use around here. And then I gotta put it up in here into the power head, which I'm almost gonna guarantee I'm gonna have to get a light, because I can't see where that hole is. Good enough without it. And nah, the fishing's not working for me today. Alright, I gotta get a light. So hopefully you guys can see all this foolishness I'm doing here. I'll be right back. And we're back. So yeah, there it is. I just missed it too. Damn it. There we go. And I'm going to push that up inside the rubber O-ring up in the power head. And then this will be attached to my garden hose. And this will act like a water pump when I turn the water on. It's going to go through the block and come out the weep hole. And everybody's going to be all kinds of happy. It's just like it's got a water pump, but it don't. So we're going to put this with the motor. Put the motor back down on my work boat here, and we're going to set up in a different location to run that. Sometimes that falls out because it just goes into there's a little O-ring about that big, and that tube slides into that O-ring up in the bottom of the power head. So it doesn't ever have to have a problem, because when the gear case is on, there's the same O-ring at the bottom, so they kind of squish together and they're all happy. So that's the end of this part. It's a huge success so far. Let's see if we can make really loud noises. Well, we're back. As you can see, I've hooked up the garden hose. This is hot water coming out of here right now, because this is set up to go to a pressure washer through. It's actually coming out of a hot water heater. So it's already pre-warmed the block. So that's kind of a good thing, but it will cool off very quickly. I tested it already to see if I could get the weep hole or the hole or water tail, depending on what you want to call it this week. But that cavity is plugged, probably coated up with a bunch of crap, and so it's just not going to allow that. But what it does allow is the water flow is flowing through the block and coming out the bottom, which would normally come out your prop. So that being said, you can see the water coming out down there. Alright, so it's going all the way through the block and coming out. So the next step is we're going to fire it up, and I haven't got the gas hooked up yet because we have that weeping carburetor problem. I'm also going to cool this motor to think it has a gear case, put it forward so we can rev it up higher. So I will be shifting it in the forward once I run it. It does fire really nice. Some fuel. I had a fight with this before. I'm definitely going to look into why this is so sticky. Alright. All that goofing around, we ran out of the gas out of it? Damn. I'm sure most of it. Oh, wow. That carburetor is leaking. These two fixed themselves already, and the bottom carb is leaking. So, that'll probably fix itself. Silence is golden. Oh, I love the smell of pot oil. Well, kind of wanted. Passed the sniff test. Okay, I don't know what you guys think, but I think we have a winner. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. So, that's the end of this segment. Next is another Merc. Quite similar, but different.